The end of the world. For a short time in the spring of 1997, it appeared to be at hand, brought down upon the people of the Red River Valley. Winter storms, water, fire. The elements themselves seemed to turn on humanity in Grand Forks and East Grand Forks, along with the rural areas and communities surrounding them. Drayton, Warren, Oslo, Pembina, and more. Never before had such an unbelievable combination of disasters been seen, not just in the Midwest, but anywhere in the United States. Even those who had witnessed countless scenes of destruction stood in awe of the flood of 1997. History was made day by unforgettable day. As with many epic tales, the story of the Great Flood of '97 began softly, with the innocence of a soft white November snowfall. In North Dakota and Minnesota, snow is a way of life. From November to April, the ground is white, and even the hardiest citizens complain good-naturedly of sub-zero temperatures, icy roads, and frustrating piles of snow. There's a certain pride that the people of North Dakota and Minnesota take in being able to withstand northern winters. But the winter of 1996-97 was different. The year ended with a series of powerful blizzards. Snow depths inched to record levels, and winter ended with the worst ice storm in a half a century. A storm so powerful and destructive that it crippled the region, leaving tens of thousands without power and heat in temperatures that fell below freezing. By early 1997, the mood of the Red River Valley became one of genuine concern. In the southern end of the valley, flooding began to consume communities such as Wahpeton and Breckenridge. The floodwaters gained momentum and volume as they pushed toward Fargo. Inevitably, the sum of these floods raced northward to the cities of Grand Forks and East Grand Forks, the point at which the Red and Red Lake rivers meet. The people of the Red River Valley fought valiantly against time to prepare for the worst, but no one could have been ready for what came. A relentless, unfeeling, unstoppable torrent of water that engulfed everything in its path. Predicted crests were reached, then surpassed, and soon the predictions themselves became meaningless, changing by the hour. Nature defied science, and the waters of the Red rose without mercy. Dikes leaked, and some broke. Cities were evacuated. Brave warriors dropped their sandbags and became refugees, watching helplessly from afar as contaminated waters flooded their homes. They watched as downtown Grand Forks became a vision from Dante's Inferno, a paradox of destruction, at once submerged in murky floodwater and engulfed in flames. The images were surreal, the end of the world indeed. This is the story of this incredible time, as seen on WDAZ-TV's News Center 8. While their families evacuated, the men and women of WDAZ-TV stayed on the air. Throughout the defining event of our time, your home team was there. Here then is the epic tale of the people of the Red River Valley, a tale of suspense, danger, and ultimately hope. Force of nature, the flood of 1997.
Winter's everyday thing, you know. If you live in North Dakota, you're going to put up with winter, so.
Wind chill factors dipping down to 50 below zero put a stop to most activity in our region. Schools were closed for the second day in a row, and county and city offices shut down.
And once again, the region was blinded by the white of a blizzard. also delayed interstate highway travel in and out of Grand Forks. Wind gusts of up to 50 miles an hour and falling snow made for near zero visibility.
The snow is that much deeper now, the banks that are 6, 8, 10 feet high.
Never seen it this bad. 33 years I've never seen it, you know, pushing this many storms, you know, and this bad. And cancellations of schools, you know.
It's always hard when you gotta get out in the wind and cold, but that's North Dakota, I guess you gotta expect it.
Oh, you gotta be positive and look, okay, we've moved a few more days towards spring and we'll get there. We made it before.
It's possible that one end of the valley would melt a lot faster than the other. Also, the water equivalents south of Fargo, up in the headwaters of the Red River Valley, are higher than the northern part of the valley.
Residents living along the Red River and its tributaries should prepare for a severe flood this year. That was a recommendation today from the National Weather Service, which issued its first flood outlook for 1997. The Weather Service defines severe as crests from near record to above record levels, assuming the valley receives normal precipitation the rest of the winter.
All the dikes in Grand Forks, with exceptions of a few low spots, are good to 50 feet, and we will have plans in place to raise any of the dikes that we have to.
1979 was the year many communities in the Red River Valley experienced the worst flood of this century. But if early predictions hold true, this spring's flood may set the new record. In 1979, the Red River crested at 48.8 feet in East Grand Forks. Today, the National Weather Service predicted a crest of 49 feet.
City and County of Grand Forks are better prepared than we were in 1979. We have an emergency flood plan in place that defines what response is needed at each elevation as the river rises.
Overall, you just anticipate doing all the things we did in 79 and plus a little bit more if we go higher. And it's always the going higher that's kind of scary.
I don't want to see those dikes sitting there with water getting within 6 inches or a foot.
In East Grand Forks, the plans are to raise the dike by the Timberline Court area 6 feet, which would allow it to handle a 50-foot crest with 2 feet to spare.
Every Monday morning, a snow core sample is taken just outside the National Weather Service office in Grand Forks. Volunteers at least 50 other locations throughout the region take similar samples in an effort to find out just how much water is in the snow. This morning, they find 8.42 inches of water in the sample.
8 inches is high. It's one of the higher ones I've seen. And for this year especially.
By mid-morning, the core samples and snow depths called into Grand Forks are reported to the North Central River Forecast Center in the Twin Cities.
The moisture content is higher than average, and the soil content is higher than average, so all these combined. But it all comes down to how the whole process works. If we have a normal melt cycle, a slow melt cycle, a good runoff, you know, it's going to be hard to get away from having no flooding, but it will minimize the flooding.
Volunteers got an early jump on this spring's flood today, as more than 100 people came to the Grand Forks Public Works building to fill sandbags. Another shift relieved them later in the day.
Are you concerned at all that you may have to use some of these sandbags you're making?
Yes, I am. That's why I'm out here. I want to get some when they come giving them out. I want to make sure I get my fair share.
Once we start into the flood itself, we're going to need to be producing bags as fast as we can make them.
Pembina County has 50 to 75,000 sandbags ready to fill, and another 25,000 will be ordered for homeowners.
I got a couple friends out here, and I got them to come out here, you know, just telling them, come save my house, you know.
Warren is already stockpiling sandbags, but these aren't volunteers hard at work. They're people who have been convicted of a crime and are helping the city through the Sentencing to Service program.
These are not hardcore prisoners. They're prisoners that are in anywhere from drunk driving to maybe other small offenses.
It's a good opportunity for us to get out and help the community, and I don't know, it goes pretty good out here. It's a lot better than sitting inside.
Sounds of construction equipment can sometimes be a nuisance, but for many East Grand Forks residents living in flood-threatened areas, it's music to their ears.
Sandbags would go about at this height, and as you can see, we can't build, there isn't enough bank here to build that high. The whole floor, first floor is underwater by 4 or 5 feet. Then, of course, you can't get to the upstairs unless you have high waders.
High temperatures in the 40s and lows below freezing have made for ideal melting conditions in recent days, but it hasn't been enough to change the flood outlook.
We understand that some people are beginning to hope that since the snow is starting to disappear, that the flood potential has decreased, and we just wanted to reinforce the fact that we still expect the same seriousness of the flood potential as we issued on March 14th.
Runoff from nearby farmlands had nowhere to go but the township of Vesleyville. Carly is waving to her grandmother, Jan Novak. They're separated by about 3 feet of water that rushed in overnight. She has 2 feet of water in her basement.
It hasn't hit up on the first level of the house. And I just, personally, I thank the Lord for that. We've been protected so far.
We're worried about some rain or some snow that might complicate the problems in Minto.
The Forest River has made its return, flowing into the southeast corner of town. Nearly 40 homes are surrounded by water.
Kept making sandbags every night, and we finally kind of caught up, but only we had to add a few bags to last night, because it was kind of tempting to go over the top.
We don't need any more water. This is great plenty to go around for a long time.
Glenn Brewstead of rural Hillsboro says he'll try to stick out the flood of 97. Several of his neighbors in this area just north of town have already left. Some even had to be evacuated by boat after the Goose River rose faster than expected.
Water's come up considerably since 6:30 this morning. We're able to drive up to every house along here. Now, 8 hours later, we've got water everywhere.
We're going to make every effort we can to make sure that the Kennedy Bridge stays open. Because we're going to be very, very close to having that, at least the approaches to that, underwater. We know that the Sorley Bridge and the Point Bridge will be closed.
The Weather Service has certainly predicted high water. We know it's coming. We know we need to fill a lot of bags. The city's going to try and be prepared with clay, but there's a lot of areas in the city that are going to have to get sandbagged. Homeowners, dikes. And we're a long ways away from what we need, but we're still 3-4 weeks away from this being over.
It's tough to even keep it on the road. I mean, it just wants to go all over.
It'd be best if they could stay off the roads because they are very treacherous. Even standing still, the wind could blow you on the ice.
We're well aware that there's an awful lot of our customers that are dependent on electricity to pump water and sump pumps at this time, so there's no real good time for an ice storm, but this is probably the worst, knowing that the customers are really in need of electricity at this time.
This is the worst that I have ever seen because of the power outages and the ice. I know people have been really feeling out of it because of the lack of heat.
From off in the distance, you can see the full scope of the damage. One power pole down after another in what looks like a domino effect.
Obviously, it's going to take us a while to get that many poles replaced, so we're looking at days to hopefully no longer than a week.
The worst part of an ice storm from our end of it is the helplessness. You know it's too cold out not to have electricity,
and there's absolutely nothing we can do about it. We can't get this system put back together in one day. I wish we could.
You can't just throw it up on the pole. You got to get it out of the ice, and you know, there's water everywhere.
We're getting along. We heat some water or snow. We melt snow on top of our wood burner so that we have water. We aren't complaining because we know there are others that have a much harder circumstance than we do.
Some peas, John?
Would you like some beef stew? Why not?
As far as food, we're feeding 3 shelters right now, about 250 people in this facility. I can get counts of the other facilities. We figure about 400 people that we're feeding.
But it was just getting too cold for the baby, and so we decided the closest place we could get a room was in Fargo, North Dakota. So we went there on Monday night, stayed there Monday, and then we came back here Tuesday night. This was the closest place we found a room for Tuesday. And we just decided to stay today because since there's no power, electricity, or water, might as well just stay one more day instead of everybody getting sick.
No, I've never experienced nothing like this before in my life. Appreciate electricity a lot more now.
These men look like power line professionals as they chip the ice to remove downed lines, but they're actually Polk County residents lending helping hands to the Red River Valley Co-op Power Company.
The power people that have the experience are spending all their time doing things that we can do, and so they'll have more time to put up the new wires and new poles and things.
Now that the public system is done, a large percentage of the city has been protected. And now I guess we can go to those private areas.
I imagine we're adding another 6-7 feet, and hopefully that's enough. It's to that point where you start saying, well, how high should I go and how high can I go?
These kids are just marvelous. And they're so untiring. You know, they work like horses, and they've got a rhythm all going.
You gonna ruin your shoes? Or?
I wore my old shoes today. I'm not worried. I bought them for school, and, well, I got in the mud. Oh, well, I ruined them, and my dad's going to freak out.
Just kind of transfer down, get our base reorganized, and then we'll keep covering them up, okay? So just come on down here a little bit.
We've got to get out and get those sandbags bagged and moved to different locations because this flood is coming and it could be the flood of the century the way it looks.
No one here in Ada, Minnesota ever imagined the flood would bring this town to her knees like this. Today, the National Guard, along with tractors and payloaders, traveled around the flooded town to pick up frightened residents of Ada.
It went from worse to worser. We finally had to give her up. I've lived in Ada all my life, and I've never seen flooding like this in my entire life. I don't know, I'm sure I've lost everything.
The community of Breckenridge can hardly believe it. They're being flooded by the Bois de Sioux River, which has broken out of its banks. People here are desperately working to save their homes.
No, we should all go one direction. We don't need that. Conrad, let's start swinging. Yeah, let's get to work here.
It's just been terrible what the people have gone through, and we're just here to help to support the state and local communities and try to do everything we can.
It's been determined necessary by the appropriate authorities, namely the President and the Governor, that it's necessary to support the safety and the well-being of the citizens and the community and the state.
Got off work at 7:30 and drove home to find 6 inches going over the road, but I was able to make it home and get the other boat launched. So we'll be boating, it looks like, for the next week or two.
Well, I'm pretty nervous. My knees were shaking going through there. The first time I went in a little bit and backed up. I didn't know if I wanted to go, and then I just went, and it was pretty deep in there. I could feel the water.
It's astronomical. I've never dreamed the water would come in this fast.
It's an all too familiar story for residents in Warren. Floodwaters flowing across town, turning the city into a battleground against the rising water.
Right now, we have no idea if it's going to go a foot higher or 2 feet higher. We're seriously looking into evacuating some people right now. They've given up. They can't fight it anymore.
Emergency officials say what's making this flood so hard to combat is that the water is coming from pretty much everywhere except the Snake River itself. That's because the river is still covered with ice and isn't taking the runoff, meaning the water is going in every direction.
3 strikes and you're out. We were ready for Mother Nature this time. We had everything under control, and just when we had just enough sandbags ready to go, the levee broke, and there's nothing you could do.
Water from the flooding red broke through an earthen dike on Oak Grove's southeastern side, and the tidal wave spilled over into dozens of homes in the neighborhood. Several lost their homes tonight, and after fighting day and night for 2 weeks to save their house, homeowners could not hold back the emotion of this defeat. All some could do is comfort each other. Those who lost the battle tonight are wondering how long the river will continue to play this devastating, dangerous game.
Every inch that goes up now is concerned. So when it was forecast for another foot, that's put a lot of strain on our dikes. We do have to be concerned. And so we are going to look for people that are going to be in low-lying areas that might have to evacuate and help those people where we can.
If we lost a dike, it would be a wall of water. Houses would not be standing. And to be in that position at nighttime where it's impossible to rescue someone, you're talking about life safety.
In the last 2 years, we've resided, put new windows on, did a lot of interior work and remodeling.
How does it make you feel to have to leave this now?
Very sad.
Really unhappy. It's scary. I've shed a few tears. It's hard. Yeah. I think the dike will hold. It's been here so many years, but I just rather not come back to nothing, so just in case.
A view of the Grand Forks Country Club south of the city, surrounded by water. A huge flow of water from the Red Lake River can be seen as it empties into the Red. The Kennedy Bridge, the only link still open between Grand Forks and East Grand Forks, was unaffected by the rising water. But farther upstream, the Burlington Northern Railroad Bridge was holding back a considerable amount of ice. The entrance to the Point Bridge, submerged in water on the East Grand Forks side, and the Koinonia Spiritual Center underwater.
Good luck. Hang on, because if all this water is coming your direction, just hang on, hang on.
They found an area that they felt was suspect, and they call it a transfer crack, which is a crack near the top of the dike. They saw some dirty water coming through there. They felt it was in the best interest of the citizens that we notify them to leave the Lincoln Park or the Lincoln Drive area at this time.
I was on my way out to Forks Rental to pick up a truck to come down here and tow things out, and got halfway out there and heard that there was a breach in the dike on Lincoln Drive, and they're evacuating everybody, so we hustled home and had trouble getting through the police at the end, but they finally let us in, and now we've been told that once we get out, we're out to stay.
I worry about the mental and physical condition of our people because this has been so long. However, the one thing that I did say last night is I want to avoid any fatalities at all costs.
The water along the dike is 2 feet higher than our floor is right now. If this dike lets go, we'll be about a foot on the floor.
We're just trying to get everything up out of the way in case the water decides to come in here.
I don't think it's in us to sort of give it up. You know, too much of our life. The business has been around 60 years and there's a lot of our life in it, so certainly we want to do everything we can.
Mike, what can you tell us what's happening in East Grand tonight?
Jane, we're in the point area of East Grand Forks. As you can see behind us, this is the James Avenue Folsom Court area, and there is quite an effort going on here to try to preserve this dike and to preserve the lower end of this home. There's a chain of residents, citizens, maybe back 2-3 yards from an adjacent street, trying to keep this chain going. They've got pumps going. You can hear the spitting of water into the Red Lake River.
Please listen for evacuation notices. We do not want panic. However, it is for your security because the dikes are leaking and the water is rising faster than we can get a handle on. So we are trying to keep these dikes repaired. It's been an impossible task through the night.
First it was disbelief. I didn't believe that this area would be in the flood area. I bought this place because it was on high ground near the river. So, I don't know, disbelief, and I'm just trying to get everything that we need and get moved on out of here.
My parents came in, they're like, wake up, but then I thought I was late for school, but then they're like, we have to go, and we all had to get all our stuff and pack up and leave.
Everyone living in this neighborhood, you need to evacuate. You need to evacuate this area.
Right now, we're planning on making it. They are patching, they are working, but the citizens do need to listen to us when we ask them to do something because we are thinking of their safety.
It's very hard. 23 years. It's just, what do you do? You just got to start over again. My family's safe. I'm not the only one in the boat. It's not like it's my catastrophe. It's everybody's.
Live from WDAZ-TV in Grand Forks, this is a News Center 8 Flood Fight Special Report.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Terry Doolin, and this is continuing live coverage of the flood of '97. Standing by live now, we have enlisted from WDAZ Sports, Rob Lear and Rob Vogel, I should say. Rob, what's the latest?
Thank you very much, Terry. I'm standing here at the English Coulee area, here at the intersection of Gateway and Columbia. Two very different stories happening here right now. The first we'll show you is the water that has built up in this area on the other side of the dikes. Certainly as far as the eye or camera lens can see here, quite a bit of water which has caused Columbia and Gateway, in fact, to be shut down. Gateway all the way stretching towards the freeway, certainly as far as our shot here can show you. You can also see back over here as we work back towards the intersection, workers just down the way towards the university building up the dike, trying to keep back the flooding waters. And on the other side of the flooding waters is where they're digging up the dirt. As you can see, a steady stream, a very long line of trucks, at least 15 to 20 deep right now. Trucks in line waiting to grab the earth that's being dug up and take it to the other flooded areas. And right now, one of the areas that is being flooded is this area right here, which they are taking the dirt from. So they're battling the rising waters here right in the English Coulee area, and they're also trying to get some dirt and get some earth and move it to other areas where they're battling it as well. And some workers have just arrived from Bismarck and other areas all across North Dakota coming to try and help in the flood fight, one that will continue on as this process continues. Back to you.
Kurt Lenz is covering one of the 4 areas in Grand Forks where the evacuations took place earlier this morning. Dikes are showing signs of weakening in the riverside area. While crews work feverishly to reinforce the structures, residents are calmly moving things up and down out of harm's way while the red rages.
We've moved about 3/4 of our furniture either up or out. The rest we're just gonna hope for the best. That's all we can get. Plus we got to get to some other people and help them out.
How many people or who
as many as we can. You don't know. You run out of time in the day.
From Bill Steckler's house, you can see the Kennedy Bridge remaining open for now. Grand Forks engineers have been doing everything possible to keep that bridge open. The water is just about lapping at the base of the bridge. I've lived in Grand Forks off and on since the late 1960s. I've never seen anything like this.
I'm not sure if you can see right now, but across there we do have the Louis Murray Bridge. We have noticed as we've been standing here, there has been traffic going across it, but very, very slow and very bumper to bumper. We understand through Mayor Staus and other officials from East Side that they're saying, please don't go over there. In fact, they're stopping all traffic unless it's at utmost urgency, an emergency that you need to go across that Louis Murray Bridge.
We're very close to winning, but really close to losing. It's that thin of a margin there, Terry, according to officials in East Grand Forks.
You probably see maybe a quarter of the top of my house right now, just the way this looks right as we speak. So, and it's still, as you can see, flowing down, so won't be much left. You probably won't see the top of my house when this is all done. So it'll be a loss.
It was hard, I think, you know, after all that work and all that family effort to see it not hold.
Mother Nature is in charge. That's the lesson we're learning here.
We moved stuff upstairs. I think it's going to get in their main level.
What do you think when you see something like this?
I'm absolutely devastated. My heart just pours out these people when I see rooftops.
Well, I think I prepared myself a little bit. I kind of expected it to go over. I had that feeling, and but it's still not good. You know, it hurts. Realization is starting to set in a little bit.
Usually we have the kids' playground equipment over there where you can see where the playhouse is, and we have some trees that go along the fence line. Wishing well, the whole fence is gone, and over there you can see the tree fort that you have to climb the tree to get into. You can just see the top of it.
I wasn't alive when the last one was here in '79, but this is unbelievable. It's just terrible. How do you recover from something like this?
I don't know. Sometimes I'm feeling really on top of it and strong, and you know, feeling like, hey, you know, there's people a lot worse off, and then sometimes I'm a little more selfish and have my little moments where I let loose, and that's okay. I got to do that once in a while.
What goes through your mind at a point like this when you're not only seeing a place that you worked in and lived in, but also a city that is going through such emotional stress?
Well, I think, first of all, the enormity of it just is hard to absorb. I think it's so many people talk about walking around in a dream. It's just hard to accept the reality. When we put it all in perspective, you know, the important thing is that we have each other and people, and to just hold on to, I suppose the challenge is to say what's really important here and to be able to hold on to that. There's a lot of grieving going on, and I hope there'll be a way when this is all over to sort of grieve together. We need people, we really do.
Belmont Road is under, and went over to Riverside, and there are people, you know, still trying to save homes and working, and talk to some of those people, and it grabs you. But they all had their spirits up, even though things are, you know, not very good right now, and just shook a few hands and told them keep the faith. We'll make it through with no loss of life.
This has been a real partnership with Grand Forks and East Grand Forks during the entire preparation and the entire fight.
Yes.
You know what's happening in Grand Forks. You're a native of rural Grand Forks, correct me if I'm wrong.
Rural East Grand Forks.
Rural East Grand Forks,
Yep.
excuse me.
We just lost I believe, the Minnesota Point. There was a dike that failed there, so that was quite emotional for me. My dad lives 5.5 miles from there. And although he is not affected, it's a lot of people that I've known. We didn't give in, none of us. We fought it till the end, and we're still fighting here, and so are they.
We've got some gentlemen loading some supplies here into a truck. I see towels. I see...
Pat, do you think you might be able to get a word with them, ask them what they're doing?
What are you guys doing? Can we talk to you for a second or not? Okay, it'll be real quick.
This is outside the Grand Forks County Courthouse.
Can I get your name, please?
Brian Solberg, correctional officer.
Okay, what's going on here?
We're evacuating the jail.
Well, once you get over there, for now, you're probably not coming back.
Well, that's fine.
Thank you, sir.
You'll have to get by without me tomorrow.
All righty. We only got one stacker, so...
Everything's been so uncertain, and we don't want to frighten people, but we don't want anybody to get hurt or, stuck in their homes either. So we had asked a voluntary evacuation of those people that don't have water, at this point, and maybe to go out of the city of Grand Forks and stay with friends and to make sure they prepare their homes. But the people east of Washington should be very cautious so that they make sure that they can get out before the water gets too deep in the streets.
At what time today did people realize that they couldn't win the battle?
As they started telling us the crest was going to be 53, it went to 53.5, and when they said 54, we just all sort of looked at each other and knew that with the resources we had that we could not accomplish that. And at that point, we thought more of evacuation in an orderly manner or whatever we had to do.
The water's flowing, it's like it's a river channel right in the middle of all the streets. And there's alleys that run in between there, it's all river. I mean, it's flowing north, it's amazing. It's going right down the streets.
University of North Dakota is going to end its academic semester effective today. We encourage, obviously, all of our students to leave the campus and to return to their homes in North Dakota and elsewhere.
There's high and dry out there, and we're in better shape than being here, just for a precautionary measure.
From where we stood, we didn't want to leave this area as it was still in good shape and still able to save it. We just didn't want to walk away from it and have it go under.
They're a little evacuation happy, but it better be safe than sorry. I don't know.
We're just playing it by ear right now.
We're just playing it by ear.
I think that.
We'll leave if we have to, but
If you're home, you don't give up to the bitter end.
We're going to stick around as long as we can just to try and hold on. The problem will be getting out. We may be stuck here for a week.
I'm near the corner of South 12th Street and 22nd Avenue. As far as the eye can see, the water hasn't reached the first level of these homes. One National Guards person we spoke to said that most people have evacuated this area, but there are a few still sandbagging their homes.
Not too happy about this. Nobody is, Kitty.
It's picked up about the last hour and a half. They're telling people to leave Grand Forks and evacuate, and that's probably the best thing to do.
It's strange to, try and cheer these people up, but I really don't know what to do, honestly. I'm trying to be myself and try and be happy and cheerful, but people come by with the same, solitude on their face. They try and laugh and smile, and the key word is try, and that's all you can keep doing, keep hopeful.
I mean, if you could see this desk, if we got a really wide shot of this desk, you would see, this is just a portion of all of the announcements that we've got in, people who are opening up their homes to the flood victims in the greater Grand Forks area.
Jerry Roach has room for 4 people in Mackinac, 701-594-8166.
Vernon Cole, K-O-E-L, from Williams, has room for 6.
A resident in Greenbush, Minnesota, is currently taking in cats.
Michigan, North Dakota is opening its Civic Center to shelter Grand Forks flood victims.
Randy Ricewig has room for 4 or 5 people in Roseau.
We are in the parking ramp, actually, up on the second level, just kitty corner, just down a block from it. And in fact, it is burning so hot that you can feel the heat coming from the fire here. Firefighters are trying right below us to hook up a fire hose. They are having to dig down below the water and feel for it. It's just down a block at the old security building across from Merrill Lynch. The roof of the building has been burned off. You can see the flame coming through from a couple floors down. There's flames coming from the main level as well.
coming on almost every one of the windows. There are flames.
There's 2 people on the roof over there. No, over. No, you people. What? Hey, there was 2 people on the roof over here. There's 2 people on the roof. No, that was Pete and I.
No, there's 2 others. Did they come down here?
No, there's about 2, 3 buildings over on this roof. Not this roof, but on
you guys know about the drop?
Huh?
You know about the drop?
Yeah. You got to be out of here in about 20 minutes. No problem, but there's 2 people on this roof. It's over there.
Hi.
You scared at all while you were waiting?
No, we were on the roof and we were watching the pink security building and Greg's Landing next to it burn.
You saw the whole thing?
We watched the wall fall. We watched all of it. We've been here since last night watching it on the roof. We watched the dike go over, all of it.
There you go. You said there's 4 people in this building?
Yes, sir.
We got an individual over here that's requested to get out as well.
It's okay.
Oh, Eric, relax.
It's okay. There you go.
Mom's right here.
Oh, it's okay. Come up here. Come up here. Come up here.
Oh, it is? You don't want people to see you crying, do you? That way also
We were planning on riding it out downtown. You know, we're very comfortable down there. We had plenty of food and power and everything. As soon as the power went, we knew we had to go.
I was going to stay, but the fire convinced me to go.
How long were you planning to stay?
We were hoping for 3 to 4 days, but they said it was going to be a 2 to 3 day slow rise. That helped convince me to get out too.
After the dropping of sodium salts from above, the next line of defense came from the floodwaters below, as helicopters put the river water to good use by dropping it on the fire.
Lynn, tell us again what you want.
Okay, as mayor of East Grand Forks, I'm asking for mandatory evacuation of East Grand Forks for a period of at least 5 days. We will close the water treatment plant because we have developed a leak. The sewer system could be totally shut down. We could lose our electricity, and most important, for your own safety. We've put up a good fight, but we couldn't quite make it. And for your own safety, I'm asking you to leave the city and come back when things are safe.
We have a very important message here from the president himself. President Clinton says that today his thoughts and prayers are with the people of Fargo and Grand Forks. Clinton says he applauds the courage and fortitude of North Dakotans who are fighting the Red River flood. In a statement today, the president is promising assistance from the federal government in fighting the flood and cleaning up after it. The Federal Emergency Management Agency is already on the scene. In a statement today, the president says we will be there to assist not only during the flood, but when the cleanup begins. Again, that's a message from President Clinton.
We have numerous fires in the downtown area. We now have been able to get some heavy equipment in there. Wind was from the northeast, and so it was the flying brands that were causing us the problem. The wind was strong enough, and the heat from the fire lifting up these brands, and the wind was strong enough and carrying it, and they would fall. They would come down on the roofs, and we weren't able to put water on those roofs before they would catch on fire. The conditions are absolutely horrendous. We're working in 4 feet of water. The water is unbelievably cold. We've had 3 people suffering from hypothermia. We just took another firefighter to the hospital. That was his leg was cut. Our people are getting tired, and they aren't They aren't out there long before they're terribly cold, and we're rotating as much as we can, as fast as we can. But we intend to be out there until the fire is out.
Okay, we're going to bring you a little more up to speed on the fire, which is the greatest concern right now. It's not totally under control at this time. We do have a great risk of life down there. We are staging helicopters for helicopter rescues. These people, if they can't reach us by some cellular phone or whatever, need to hang a sheet out the window, get on some place where they can notify these helicopters and wave an item. They need to turn electrical power off. They need to turn the gas off, or we're going to have other explosions, electrical problems down there. This is a very, very serious situation.
They're saying now mandatory evacuation. This is mandatory now. Evacuation has been ordered for all areas east of I-29, for all low-lying areas to the west of I-29, from the city of Grand Forks north to the Walsh County line.
People there wanted to know, how is the station doing? They said, you can't go off the air. We really depend on you.
My son lives in this building here. We live over on 13th Avenue.
Okay. How long have you been out of your house on 13th?
We left it yesterday. We knew the water was coming, but we learned a new lesson, I guess.
Hopefully it's enough to keep it out of the basement. I figure a little bit of effort, maybe it'll save us a lot in the long run. If not, we tried.
We have a camera for posterity's sake, and cooler for food, just some vital things, but and bags of clothes. But we only took 2 days. I mean, that was Thursday, and we were one of, I guess I'd say, one of the first or second area to evacuate. So, we just grabbed probably 2 days worth what we could, and got all our stuff on the second floor. And so now we're like running out of clothes. So that's another reason to go to Fargo.
Residents here say they thought if any place in Grand Forks would stay dry, it would be their neighborhood. But it seems with this flood, the water is sparing no one.
Areas close to the river are going to go, but you never dream in a trailer park 2.5, 3 feet above the ground and this far away from the river that you're going to have anything to worry about.
But now you're starting to worry.
Oh, yeah.
We never expected to get water here because this was one of the last places in town that was dry.
I don't know. I guess it's got to come up maybe another couple more feet before it starts getting into our house, but we're not going to take any chances and get as many things as we can out of here and come back when it's done and see what's left.
This is the security building. Okay, to the left is Griggs Landing, nightclub in Grand Forks. And all around, water. This, courtesy KSTP, our ABC affiliate in the Twin Cities. Pool coverage provided for us of the devastation of downtown Grand Forks. It's a building that contained the Browning Arts Studio, First National Bank building.
And I never did realize that we could make it over the last several days the way we have. The spirits of the people, tired, working 24 hours a day, losing homes, has been absolutely tremendous. It's very hard to turn away from your home and watch it go underwater. But that home can be replaced, but the lives of our valuable citizens cannot be replaced. And I will believe till the very end, and we will rebuild, that we are a place of excellence, and we will come through this.
We're doing everything we can to meet the individual and group needs of these evacuees. All of the volunteers and all of the public services, I have been just as willing, and of course coordinating through the emergency center in the county, and we're working together as a team here.
The shelter's television provides a link to what's going on back home. Many cannot turn away. They focus on their town, contemplating what they left behind. and what someday they'll return to.
Several thousand flood victims from East Grand and Grand Forks have registered at this Crookston Evacuation Center.
We took everything out of our basement, ripped the carpet and everything out, and put it all on the main floor. I never in my wildest dreams imagined it was going to go to the main floor. And, you know, I didn't even get to get my car out of the back garage. That's completely underwater. And
you have nothing?
I have clothes on our back, what we grabbed, and we took off. And once the dike went, that was it.
Every single church in Crookston is providing shelter for the flood victims. 3 hot meals a day, a place to sleep. Today, you can see the strained faces, tired and scared children, and parents who have watched their kids go through a traumatic family crisis.
How do you put it all back together? We just don't know. I mean, we have nothing to go home to now.
Water world. You know, it's just water everywhere. It's in both Grand Forks, East Grand Forks. Our community is just about completely covered with water, whether it be 2 feet, whether it be up to 12 or 15 feet. There's no more sandbagging now. There's no more diking. We did our work. We tried our best. Mother Nature beat us. It's move forward. Let's do what we can to restore the community.
You coming today, Mr. President, you bring us hope.
Good morning. President Clinton has arrived at the Grand Forks Air Force Base getting ready for his aerial tour of the flood-ravaged area of Grand Forks and East Grand Forks. The way that President Clinton sees it, people in North Dakota, as he says, are quite literally in a fight for their lives.
This is the first time that President Clinton has been to North Dakota. This was a hastily thrown together media event. We learned just yesterday, I believe, that the president was coming. The regular routine of credentials and all of that usually begins at least a couple of weeks before, but not this time.
I'm honored to be here, and when I saw pictures of some of you stacking sandbags in a blizzard, I thought that I had bad reception on my television at first. It was an amazing thing. I don't recall ever in my life seeing anything like this, and I have been very impressed by the courage and the faith that all of you have shown in the face of what has been a terrible, terrible dilemma. Today we saw, obviously, these 2 communities that have been so devastated, but we know that there is a lot of other loss in North and South Dakota and in Minnesota. We are going to do everything we can to move as quickly as possible, to do as much as can be done to help. Anyone who has been here and seen the destruction, as I have, knows that this is not an ordinary disaster, if there is such a thing. The people here are giving 100%, and we should too.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is with great pride and honor that I'm able to introduce the President of the United States, President Bill Clinton.
We have all come, first of all, to see firsthand what it is you've been going through. Secondly, to pledge to do our part to help make you whole. And thirdly, to tell you that we're for you. We have hardly ever seen such a remarkable demonstration of courage and commitment and cooperation and basic human strength, and we are very impressed and proud to be Americans when we see what you have done in the face of this terrible disaster. I say again, I know there are short-term, immediate concerns. People who need a place to sleep, people who don't know where their next check is coming from, even people who don't have access to basic sanitary facilities except here on the air base. We are working to restore those things with your local community folks, and we had some specific talks about what we could do to get proper housing available while you're rebuilding your communities.
That's up there. Anybody hurt? Well, we've had a fire, a flood, a blizzard. I guess we can take it, God. I saw something your mayor said the other day that struck me in particular. She said, what makes a community a place to live in is not the buildings, it's the people, the spirit and faith that are in those people. Water cannot wash that away, and fire cannot burn that away, and a blizzard cannot freeze that away. And if you don't give it away, it will bring you back better than ever, and we'll be there with you every step of the way. Thank you, and God bless you.
We're not refugees, we're survivors.
In rural Oslo, the full force of the Red River can be seen. Roughly half a dozen farm dikes have failed, flooding farmsteads. Among them, Jim Nelson's.
Yeah, some of the ring dikes we've been able to hold, but there's some that water has just come up too high, too fast, and they went under.
Including yours?
Yeah, our farm is under, yes.
The story for the town of Oslo itself is a good one so far. The dikes are holding and the water appears to be going down. The mail is making it in and out of Oslo by boat. Businesses remain open. The city has perhaps half of a 10-day food supply brought in earlier left.
We feel very fortunate looking to the south and what's going on towards the north. We're one of the more fortunate areas in the valley.
That Harlow just called a little while ago.
Drayton residents were given until 8 p.m. Wednesday to pack up their belongings. They were allowed to come back after an emergency evacuation early Tuesday morning.
I think I'll rest better knowing that if it does come up, it won't be all gone.
But even though all the residents are leaving town, work is continuing on the city's dike system. Crews are using wood with a plastic lining to raise the dike 4 feet, creating an impressive barrier between the town and the rising red.
And it's the Great Wall of Drayton.
Residents say seeing what Grand Forks is going through is motivation enough to keep working.
Their loss, has been the protective thing for us.
Bolt here holds it together, and that's going to be the crown of the dike. So we're going to have 18 inches of more water leeway. And we got the boards cut here. We're going to pound them in, stuff the sandbags in the cracks, and fill her with sand.
We just want to work as long as possible.
Nobody's giving up in this town. People are fighting to save it. They're working hard. There is no sense in going to a point where people are in danger.
Still going to keep up the pace like as if it is 58 or 59 because you never know what's going to happen, and what if we get a rain or whatever, we should be prepared.
Pembina is a virtual ghost town, but a ghost town still high and dry. The sand-filled plywood extensions added to the top of the town's permanent dike system, doing its job, holding back the floodwater. Just across the river is St. Vincent, Minnesota, home to more than 100 people, normally, now also evacuated by all but the most necessary flood fighters. By airboat, the magnitude of the flood fight can be seen. Mile after mile of diking topped off by sandbags. The massive effort continuing with the help of the National Guard and the Coast Guard. Work that is cold, wet, and dangerous.
Oh, we're going to win. I can't think in any other terms. We have to.
Dale Burke has been in the fight of his life since last Saturday. The water around his rural Walsh County home started jumping 2 to 3 feet a day earlier this week. The water is backing up from the spot where the Park River empties into the Red more than 6 miles away.
There was a time there where the fatigue factor was so intense that I didn't think I could do it. I didn't think it was possible, but at the last moment the cavalry arrived, as I said. We got a little extra help and it really boosted the spirits around here.
Final victory is in sight for Burke. The water is beating a slow retreat down a few inches since Friday morning. When it's all over, he says he will pay back his troops, his community, in the best way that he can, helping others, not as fortunate, clean up after the flood mess.
Without their help, I wouldn't have won the battle, but right now, so far, we're still winning.
Jim Winkler of Nitchie is used to battling floodwaters each spring and winning, but never in his life has he had to fight a flood like this, and this time he lost. A boat is now the only way he can get back and forth to his house just north of town. He says he added to the dike system around his house last year, but still ended up with 1.5 feet of water on his main floor.
It whipped us, and it's going to whip a lot of people before it's over. It's, I don't know how you can get up after you get that low, you know, but I guess you have to try it. You have no alternative.
But while Winkler may have lost his battle with the Pembina River, the war rages on in Nitchie. Most of the roads into town were blocked off with sand barriers to protect against overland flooding, and the city's primary dikes were raised 3 feet. They're now up to 26 feet, 1/2 foot above the projected crest.
We're all getting tired and burnt out from it, but hopefully it'll save our town.
I'm worried about these people because I seen the water go from Walhalla down this way. It's all up near Walhalla now, but it's coming this way.
We were a little bit surprised at what we were getting on the Pembina River based upon the earlier projections, but we need to just take things as they come and handle them.
But there is no way that I am blaming the Weather Service for what happened here in Grand Forks.
All of the bridges, except the Kennedy Bridge, had water either on them or over them, and that put more or less a cap on the top of the stream where you had the water pushing up against them, and obviously the volume of water that came into town at one big key spot, and you had the levees constructed, and they were on top of the levees at that time with more sandbags creating straight walls and instead of the channel slope walls. And you had this on the side and you had the bridges on top, and it was almost a hydraulic pipe flow going through, and there's the hourglass.
If we would have had additional time, I don't see the result being changed.
I think everyone with whom I've spoken has a sense that we lost one here.
I think the biggest thing that we have today is the re-entry into the neighborhoods that we have put together into the evacuated mandatory areas.
There is where it was. That's got to be 7.5 to 8 feet.
Farther we go east, the tougher it is, the more damage there is.
There's 12 steps down. There was a finished basement down there. This is a picture of our bathroom in here. This is
home, sweet home.
Well, you know something?
I'm numb.
Yeah.
I'm numb.
We kept telling ourselves it wasn't going to be that bad, and then we changed it to, why not think that it's going to be the worst and then hope for a little better? So that's all you could do.
And we were planning on moving anyway, but it's hard if you live here 18 years, and we stuck a lot of work in the house, and hopefully that somebody else would have been able to buy it.
Anyone who has had a home that was substantially damaged will have to either replace their home so that it's above the flood level, or they'll relocate.
I don't want them spending $50,000 or $80,000 to reconstruct in an area that might be completely out of flood protection in the next 10 years.
All the doors and stuff don't shut properly. All the furniture got contaminated and stuff, so there's no way you're going to use that. Carpet, flooring, all that's going to come out. All the wood that's underneath the floor comes out too. It's bad, but it's not as bad as I thought. I thought we were going to be up to windows and stuff. It's going to have to be gutted up to the first section of sheetrock and rewired. Major project.
I don't know where we're going to go yet. It'll depend on where we can find houses, and if we find something we like up here, maybe we'll stay around here. If not, we'll go look for jobs other places and move, but not going to be near a river.
Downtown will never be the same.
Right now, I think we need to take a baby step at a time and clean up that area, see where we're at. We definitely are not going to kill downtown. If we can, we'll make it better.
The whole restaurant bar business on the east side has been flourishing through all the way through Prohibition and through the 40s, and we've never had a drop of water in there, and all of a sudden we're up to our eyeballs.
It's total devastation. I think cleanup is not going to help much here. Everything I've seen in here is shot. You know, the electronic equipment and everything is so soaked down and full of mud that I don't think it'll ever run again.
You hear Whitey's or Antique or names like that have been around for a long time. We can still take that name and move it. It just has to be a different building, and probably it's time that they rebuild it. It becomes newer and nicer and a positive upbeat for the community.
Through flood and fire, the paper never missed a single issue. Since the flood, the Herald has been headquartered here at Manville Public School, about 10 miles north of Grand Forks. The school's computer lab is now the Herald newsroom. The band room is its photo department. The paper's administration works out of the library. Close quarters, much earlier deadlines, a newspaper reduced in size to one section of news and printed in St. Paul.
The worst thing that could have happened to us and to the community was for us not to come out, because by coming out as a newspaper, that meant that the flood could not defeat us and the fire could not defeat us, and that we could come back and we could come back from that, and if we could come back from that, everybody could come back from that.
That part there was a bedroom, and that was a closet. I don't know whose table that is. That kind of floated in and hung there. I've been down here a few times before since Monday, but I've never been able to get in the house because all the doors were jammed.
Ready? Oh boy. Holy cow.
I've been psyching myself up, so I realized, you know, that the place is a complete loss. Otherwise, who knows, I'd probably get sick.
Did you bring a flashlight?
Oh, it's in the car. Don't the lights work?
No.
There's a mission table I got for my wife a year ago, Christmas, and we bought an oak table and a hutch. This thing here, I won at a carnival back in '48. The TV that we had downstairs is up on the neighbor's roof. I've resigned myself to the fact that it is gone.
Your room is just covered with
And,
ceiling.
you know, I'm just going to have to
Okay, get in mine, but mine
realize and hope I can relocate in some place that this will never happen again.
I'm just gonna walk away from it. You know, I've been there 25 years, and I guess that's the end of it. Boy. Oh.
First time I saw it, I laughed. Oh, it was pretty funny. I still think it's kind of funny, but well, that might be the thing that pushes the damage estimates to a total, so it might be a blessing, I guess.
This was the kitchen. Kitchen was what we were gonna work on more so this summer. We were gonna refinish the cupboards and take down the paneling and put up wallpaper. We've been out of the house for almost 3 weeks, and try to prepare yourself with what might be here. But, you know, there's no possible way you can. The hardest thing to lose was just our lives, and you know, we were really, really happy here.
If I'd have known, I mean, I have another level. I could have gone higher, but I never thought, who'd ever dreamed that it would be this high over here? You know, I thought maybe my basement for sure, but not this high.
My first thought was I wanted to fix my home. My second thought is maybe these places should be condemned, because I cannot imagine going through this a third time.
A friend of mine got into my place. I'm down in the Riverside area in Grand Forks, and he took a look, told me the water line didn't look too bad on my house. And we got in and checked the main floor, and my main floor is dry. But he also told me that my hot tub had floated up against my house. And I said, Dave, I don't have a hot tub. He said, well, you do now.
And I know we need to keep a sense of humor, because we are going to have so many low points.
Most of the things that are worthless are worth more to some people than they are to others, so that's the hard stuff, is the sentimental stuff. Stuff you've put a lot of work into, and wedding stuff.
Over in Okinawa, and we got this Papasan chair. And there's a little footstool that goes with it that's someplace in this mess. It's hard, but there's nothing you can do about it. You can't clean it up, so might as well get rid of it.
And even my Bible that I got when I was confirmed, right here. I had that stored, and that's gone. Lots of memories. Lots of memories.
Debris is normally about the biggest job of any, whether it be tornado, hurricane, flood, whatever.
And it's long hours, but you got to do something. You know, most of us lost things, and we got to carry on. So funny to see everything go, everything you had in your basement for years, but it's nice to get it out of here so you can just get everything started all over again and just kind of get on with everything.
And as you come in here to the office, desk is completely turned over, and all the chairs and everything in the office is completely gone. Got papers up in the ceiling, huh? I haven't even been down here. Let's go in these offices once. Ooh, here's another one, planning office. Oh, look at this stuff. Unreal. Estimate is over $1 million to fix it up, so we certainly have to look at building a new building. We go up, we close the Sorley Bridge at 47 feet. But notice how the chart had 52 feet. We never even thought we'd dreamed that we'd get that high. We topped the charts, and like we said, we went right through the roof.
looked to me like a building that had been abandoned at least 50 years. I think it probably gets everyone down when they see facilities that were so vibrant and used so very well for so many years. And if the asbestos problem is that great, the buildings may have to be destroyed. If you're ever going to get any place, you have to move ahead. And so that's what we look forward to a continued future for Sacred Heart Schools, Sacred Heart Catholic Community.
Those benches out there, they go back 90 years. And you can see how ornate they are. They're carved wood, which can't even be duplicated today. You hear about war damage, you know, and it looks like they'd take hand grenades and thrown them into these rooms, and the furniture is piled up in piles, bookshelves caved in, and we've discovered in this city that we can't make it on our own. So maybe that's one of the lessons, just to teach us a sense of humility and trust and a sense of compassion for others.
So many people in our department and in our city volunteered that they did a lottery system in order for us, and we were the lucky few that got to come and were chosen. Something that we can look back on and say we were there and we helped out and maybe made a little bit of a difference to, you know, a few people at least.
I lived here about 20 years ago, and somebody helped me one time in a blizzard, probably saved my life. So I always remember that, and watching television and seeing the devastation here. You know, we live in Southwest Florida, and we deal with hurricanes on a year-to-year basis, and this could very easily be us sometime, and we may be looking for somebody to come and help us.
This is from the people around the Milwaukee area. TV6 in Milwaukee, I guess they got on the, you know, the news, and they took a donation, or were taking donations that come right to the, right to the TV station. And they had 5 tractor trailer loads from the Milwaukee area.
They just went through this a year ago, a little better than a year ago, and it wiped out the one part of the whole valley there in Williamsport, and we know what it's like to be wiped out. We had family that went through it and went through the flood, and so I know what it's like, basically, too.
We needed the water, so it's being distributed all over the city, and we've been the recipient of a lot of generosity. There's a lot that is needed. I've never seen anything like this.
I think it's amazing. This really is amazing.
They gave us boots and gloves, and then we brought a change of clothes.
You're ready to get down and dirty, huh?
Yes, we're ready to help. Whatever needs to be done, we'll do.
Wonderful people, absolutely. We have more great people in the United States that come to help them. I don't know, more than we ever realized, I think.
I'm glad I can be up here to help, and I just can't imagine what these people are going through to come home and to see their houses like this. So what little we can do for a day, I hope it helps them.
There's elderly people out there trying to do it themselves. They're hale and hearty, but a lot of it is more work than they can handle, especially when it gets like hauling water heaters out or washers and dryers. I mean, that's physical labor. We've got, like I say, all kinds of groups coming in that will do that.
I've seen just unbelievable numbers of teenagers come through here with just a great attitude and a great thirst for life, you know, that they just really want to help people. I have not run across one volunteer that was not ready to just give it 110%, you know, all day long down in a muddy basement, you know, shoveling dirt, whatever we may need.
The Dubuque Holy Trinity Youth Group loaded up their gear and headed up north.
I knew people up here, and I've been through a small flood in my old town, and I really wanted to help. I mean, I heard about all the damage that had been done, and I really wanted to be sure that people were all right up here.
I wanted to be my class, then I went to my school, and it went to different schools and then I went to some schools in Salem. I wondered about like 200, but then we got over 200, like say 3,000 toys, and then we have $30,000. Whoa, look at this! Where did you get all this?
They come from the students in the Arbor Park School District in Oak Forest, Illinois, collected during a special flood relief week for Grand Forks.
It's just tremendous. I mean, it makes you cry every time you drive around and see stuff. It really does. Especially down...
Why does it make you cry?
Because it's emotional, honey. It's nice that people do this for other people.
Based on need, caseworkers then give out vouchers for clothes, groceries, basic furniture, most anything to get people back on their feet. Counselors say it's a step towards recovery.
Our meals have doubled. We were serving 2,000 meals a day. Now we're serving approximately 4,000 meals.
We just load it up and serve it. We run 3 runs, breakfast, lunch, and a dinner, and that takes up the whole day.
Yeah.
Sergeant Harlan Gidd has spent much of the last 2 weeks assessing the flood damage for emergency officials. At the same time, the flood was damaging his own home. The basement is caved in, and the city has condemned the house, meaning his family is now homeless. He says going through all that helped him when he answered phones at the Emergency Operations Center.
When I talked to him, that actually calmed him down, because I wasn't just somebody answering a telephone. I've been there, and I'm in the flood zone, and so it wasn't just some bureaucrat sitting there, saying I understand, and maybe they weren't even in the flood zone or affected by it.
Sergeant First Class Chris Wagner says while rescuing others, he did his best to forget his personal crisis.
At times, concentration was tough. However, especially when we were doing the evacuations, I had progressed in the thought process or the hurt process, and some of these people we were helping are just starting, and so you forgot about yourself. You had to be strong for them and help them out.
The Coast Guard is doing its part to make sure residents can move back into a safe environment. Deep in the dark basements of the flooded homes, a Pacific strike team from San Francisco is cleaning up the hazardous chemicals left behind by the high water.
It was hard to wait, but they just kept telling me why I had to wait and the kinds of problems I could get into, and sure enough, they got into some problems. If I would have done it myself, I'd have been in really bad trouble.
So many people have just been involved with the response in the disaster, and they're just now getting around to the recovery, and to be able to sit down and have those questions, be able to ask those questions directly to a representative from the different departments, I think it's very important.
You'll never know what people are going through with their specific situation, but you can kind of relate that to your situation. It really helps you make a one-on-one contact with them and helps establish a good relationship, and that's what we want through FEMA and the community.
It's nice to have a home in your own driveway now instead of driving 70 miles morning and night back to Fargo, staying with relatives and friends there, so that's nice to be home.
If you'd have asked me that a couple of months ago, would you like to move into a mobile home, brand new or not, I would have said no, but, after a while, anything is better, as long as it has a sense of semi-permanency. I mean, if we stayed in there a year to 18 months, it would be more permanent than what we're dealing with now.
It is a ray of hope so that we can build on our future. And in that point, there will be $2,000 for each household to use to get yourselves back on your feet. It is just absolutely the greatest news we have ever heard.
Congratulations.
Use it wisely.
Use it wisely.
Our deepest heartfelt thanks go out to this woman for caring so much about us, people who she has never met.
You had a chance to talk to this woman. What would you say to her about this?
God bless her.
I'd give her one big hug and say thank you. Oh man, would I.
Hundreds standing in line at Senior High School in East Grand Forks. At the end of the line, a $2,000 check, a gift from an anonymous giver, the Flood Angel.
Just Bill, here you go, and
very good. How are you?
Not say a prayer for the person who gave.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Face after face, check after check, story after story.
I lost my home. I live in Griggs Park area.
So what will you be using the money for?
To buy some new linens, appliances possibly, to get reestablished again.
Do you know where you're going to live yet?
No, I want to move back to East Grand Forks though.
Why?
It's my home. And I miss it.
Any thoughts on who the donor might be?
No.
Does it matter?
No, it doesn't. I wish I could see her.
to thank her?
Yes, more than thank her. Give her a big hug.
How do you thank them? It's help your neighbor. Frankly, that's how I think the best way to help this person wouldn't feel real good about that.
She's not interested in rebuilding the homes. She's not interested in rebuilding businesses. She's not interested in brick and mortar. She's interested in the true human spirit.
Well, this will make you feel better, I hope. People are very thankful, and you see tears of joy, and you see that they're going to have some money to go out and spend, so that's great. There you go. Good luck.
The word came out when the Grand Forks Herald reported the Angel was in town at the same time noted donor Joan Krock's jet was at the Grand Forks Airport.
I think it's pretty terrible. The generous female wanted to be left anonymous, and it didn't happen that way. And I think it's terrible that we'd want to publicize something like that.
Leave her alone, because if they didn't have that money in the beginning, why do they want to know now?
Free speech and stuff, do what you want, say what you want.
I didn't think it was important to know that, but in a way it is too, I guess.
I don't think the Herald should really be digging into it if that's what her wish is.
Since the original donors' gifts have been expended, approved to be expended, we're going to try to service as many of these other applications as we can at $1,000 or up to $1,000 per head of household.
The National Guard still stands watch on Drayton street corners, but now people are returning to their homes for the first time in more than a week and realizing just how fortunate they have been.
Didn't know if the deck was going to hold, if it was not going to hold. It's different.
Scary?
Very scary. Didn't know the water was going to come into the house or not, and if we're going to be dry or not, and came out to the best, I guess.
While the city of Warren did not suffer as much damage as the city of Grand Forks, residents of Warren suffered from their own individual struggles. Emily Cullen had a complicated pregnancy during the flood while her husband was called away for National Guard duty.
Taking time, to get things back to normal and, your house back in order, and we're still trying to get our furnace working from the water damage so we can bring the baby home and stuff.
Residents are particularly worn out after 2 floods hit at around the same time last year.
It's getting very frustrating in that the only positive thing I can say is that in June we're having a meeting with the NRCS and that to try firm up and confirm our plans for our long-term diversion project around Warren, a project that we have found that the cost-benefit ratio is positive for us, and with the river running through towns such as Warren, and we felt that it's the only way for us to go.
Another bright spot in Warren is a $48,000 check the city received yesterday from a small southern Minnesota town called Hayfield. And it all started with a penny drive from their local elementary school children. Proof that Warren's money troubles can be helped by the most unexpected resources.
We are at a point now where we need funding to keep our population in Grand Forks and to build our cities.
We don't like to come here and beg and plead for help, but we need your help bad, and we need it quick for the citizens of Grand Forks, East Grand Forks, and up and down the Red River Valley.
This was completely full of water, and it cracked the basement pretty much in half, all the way around. Next year, if we have another flood, it's going to probably cave in.
The Casprick residence is just one of many homes in Walsh County hit hard by flooding again this spring. County officials have met with state and federal agencies to discuss a voluntary buyout program. They're considering the possibility of buying out 76 homes between I-29 and the river, and working with the Corps to build a levee further away from the red.
Based on some of the earlier meetings we had, there are a large percentage of the people out here that are looking for a chance to be bought out and, be moved to another location.
After weeks of waiting, homeowners in the worst hit areas of Grand Forks now have a good idea how the buyout of their homes will work. The City Council approved the optional relocation and acquisition plan. Right now, the plan applies only to homes in the Riverside, Lincoln Park, and Central Park areas. More will be added in future phases of the plan.
There are a couple of neighbors who are interested in keeping their homes just because of their architectural beauty and their historic value, and they are thinking of moving them if necessary or possibly staying if the dike line should be revised.
We needed a place to go. FEMA had said 4 weeks mobile homes will be in, don't worry about it. Well, 2 weeks after into the apartment, we decided to check, and of course, there's no place. So that's when I just decided, you know, if I make one more move, I'm going home. You know, they have lost so much. Why would I yank anything else from them?
When we talk market value, it's what would the home have sold for before the flood came, and what were homes around the area selling for. So they're going to get the best possible price they could get for that house. Sure, there's going to be some people that go to another area, but our hope is that they will relocate in East Grand Forks, and I hope that they'll think that, like we are, that this is going to be a better community than it was before.
The opportunities ahead of us are huge. This tragedy has opened the doors to maybe some very positive, innovative new ways of running a downtown. It'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Putting together a downtown that will be for 50 or 100 years. It's going to be something that children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren are going to really be appreciative of.
We can tell you that help is on the way. We just passed the supplemental in its entirety.
There you go, Tom. The ones that we really have to give a lot of thanks to is the people, because the frustration that has set in and the time that this has taken, they've had a lot of patience.
We've been waiting some long while for this, and let me show the mayor the signatures on a piece of legislation that will unlock the gates here for the resources necessary for rebuilding and recovery.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And I just have a whole new respect for our cities. They just are coming back, they're seeing their homes, and they're digging in, and they're cleaning up, and the business is the same. So I just want to say how proud I am of this community.